They put a human in the unbeatable Gladiator arena. Bookies stopped taking bets after round one. The galaxy had been watching the unbeatable Gladiator arena for longer than most civilizations could remember. It was not just a place of competition. It was a symbol. A place where disputes were settled, pride was proven, and reputations were destroyed or made eternal. Species rose in status because of it. Species fell into shame because of it. No one expected a human to ever stand there. When humanity joined the Galactic Council, they were polite, curious, and quiet. They asked many questions and made very few demands. Other species quickly decided that humans were harmless, too soft, too emotional, too fragile. Their bodies were small. Their senses were average. Their lifespans were short. In a galaxy full of engineered predators, silicon mines, and ancient beings, humans seemed almost unfinished. That was why the Council approved the arena entry so easily. It was not meant to be fair. It was meant to be a lesson. Elias Ward stood alone on the entry platform as the arena lights slowly turned on. He was not tall. He was not muscular. He wore a simple gray suit provided by the arena with no armor, no weapons, and no visible enhancements. His dark hair was neatly cut. His hands were steady at his sides. Around him, the arena rose like a city turned inward. Endless seats curved upward into darkness, filled with millions of viewers from thousands of species. Screens floated in the air, already displaying odds, statistics, and predictions. The numbers beside Elias' name were almost insulting. Some betting houses did not even list him properly. They simply wrote human round one elimination. Elias looked around quietly. He did not smile. He did not look afraid. He breathed slowly, counting each breath, grounding himself the way he had learned long before today. High above, commentators spoke freely, knowing the human could hear them. "Fascinating," one said, its voice translated smoothly. "The human heart rate is elevated but not erratic. Probably fear," another replied. "Their species does not handle pressure well. Statistical models predict failure within the first trial." Elias heard none of it. He had already decided something important. He was not here to win. He was here to understand. The arena voice echoed, calm and emotionless. "Round one will now begin." The floor beneath Elias shifted without warning. Light vanished, replaced by a soft gray glow. Walls rose smoothly around him, forming a vast enclosed space. The temperature adjusted. The air became slightly heavier. A doorway appeared behind him, then sealed shut. The first trial was a survival labyrinth. It was famous across the galaxy. Not because it was dangerous in a physical sense, but because it was intelligent. The labyrinth observed each competitor and changed itself accordingly. If someone relied on strength, paths became longer. If someone relied on speed, gravity shifted. If someone panicked, the walls closed in. Most competitors failed because they fought the labyrinth. Elias did not move. The audience murmured. Betting screens flickered. "Is he frozen?" a commentator asked. "No," another replied. "He is waiting." Elias closed his eyes and listened, not with his ears but with his attention. He felt the slight vibration in the floor, the faint hum of energy behind the walls, the rhythm of the air circulation. He opened his eyes and sat down. The labyrinth reacted. Lights dimmed slightly. The air cooled. A faint sound echoed like distant footsteps. The system was testing him, looking for fear, impatience, confusion. Elias rested his hands on his knees. Minutes passed. Alien champions in previous cycles had rushed forward immediately, trusting instinct or training. Elias did neither. He watched how the light shifted. He noticed that every change followed a pattern, a delay, a response. "Interesting," a commentator said. "The labyrinth is escalating stimuli, but the human remains stationary." Elias finally stood and walked forward slowly, not toward a doorway, but toward a blank wall. He placed his hand against it. The wall warmed slightly. Elias smiled just a little. He stepped back, waited, then touched it again. This time the warmth came faster. "So it learns," he whispered to himself. He moved along the wall, counting steps. When the labyrinth opened a doorway behind him, he did not turn. When it created a sound to his left, he did not react. Instead, he began to map the space in his mind, not the layout, but the behavior. The arena AI adjusted again. Gravity shifted slightly, just enough to cause imbalance. Elias stumbled, caught himself, and laughed quietly. "Okay," he said. "That's new." The audience grew quieter. Bookmakers noticed something strange. The odds were not moving, not because Elias was winning, but because the system could not calculate what he was doing. Elias began to walk in short, deliberate paths, sometimes stopping for long periods. He deliberately made small mistakes. He stepped too fast once, letting gravity pull him forward. He walked into a dead end on purpose. Each time, the labyrinth reacted. Each reaction gave him information. "He's training the arena," one analyst said slowly. "No," another replied. "He's teaching himself how it thinks." Hours passed. For many species, the labyrinth caused exhaustion, confusion, or emotional collapse. Elias showed none of that. He grew tired, yes, but not panicked. Hungry, but not desperate. He treated discomfort as data. Eventually, a doorway appeared in front of him, wider than the others, the exit. Elias did not rush. He approached it carefully, watching for changes. None came. He stepped through. Light flooded his vision as the arena opened again. The crowd stared in disbelief as the human emerged, not triumphant, not victorious in the traditional sense, but calm. The arena voice spoke again. "Round 1 complete. Competitor Elias Ward has survived." Survived. That single word caused more reaction than any victory announcement in arena history. The betting halls erupted into chaos. Systems recalculated. Odds collapsed. Several bookmakers suspended betting entirely. "Unacceptable variance," one automated system flagged. Commentators struggled to explain what had happened. "He did not dominate the trial," one said. "He did not overcome it through strength or speed. He endured it," another said quietly. "And more than that, he understood it." Elias stood on the platform again, breathing deeply. His hands trembled slightly now, not from fear, but from delayed exhaustion. He wiped sweat from his forehead and looked up at the towering arena. For the first time since its creation, the arena hesitated before announcing the next round. Behind the scenes, systems ran simulations at impossible speeds. None produced reliable outcomes. The arena had been designed to defeat individuals. It had not been designed for humans. As Elias waited, a quiet thought crossed his mind. Not pride, not confidence, curiosity. If this was the best the galaxy could build to test worth, then maybe the galaxy did not understand what humans really were. The arena voice finally spoke again. "Round 2 parameters are being adjusted." Elias looked up and asked calmly, his voice carrying farther than he expected. "Adjusted how?" The arena did not answer immediately. Across the galaxy, bookies closed their human markets completely. And for the first time in arena history, the audience leaned forward not to watch someone fall, but to see what would happen next. The arena changed before anyone could see how it did so. Elias felt it first. The air pressure shifted, not enough to be uncomfortable, but enough to notice. The floor beneath his feet no longer felt solid in the same way. It was as if the space itself was uncertain about how it wanted to exist. Across the vast seating of the arena, the audience waited. They were quieter now. The laughter from earlier was gone. Even the commentators spoke in lower tones, careful with their words. The arena voice returned, slower than before. "Round 2 will test adaptive reasoning under shared conditions." Elias frowned slightly. That was unusual. Most arena trials focused on individual performance. Shared conditions meant others would be involved. Light spread across the floor, and Elias realized he was no longer alone. Around him, 6 other competitors appeared, each from a different species. Some were tall and sharp-edged, others round and heavy, others made of metal and light. All of them were champions in their own worlds. All of them looked confused. They looked at Elias. He raised his hand a little, a human gesture of greeting. "Hi," he said. None of them replied. The space around them reshaped itself again. Walls moved outward, revealing a wide-open environment. There were no weapons, no traps, no clear paths, just scattered structures, strange tools, and glowing panels that pulsed slowly. The arena explained nothing more. For a long moment, no one moved. Then one of the alien competitors stepped forward and examined a glowing panel. Another moved toward a tall structure and began testing its surface. Everyone worked separately, focused on their own survival. Elias watched. He noticed the way the panels reacted differently to each species. He noticed how the environment shifted slightly whenever someone took too many resources from one area. He noticed how the space grew dimmer when tension rose. The arena was not testing strength. It was testing choice. Elias took a slow breath and walked toward the center of the space. "Hey," he said, louder this time, "I think we should talk." One of the competitors turned sharply toward him, clearly suspicious. Another made a low sound that the translator struggled to smooth. They expect us to compete, the sound resolved into words. Only one survives. Elias shook his head. That's what they expect, he said. That doesn't mean that's the only outcome. The others hesitated. In the arena, hesitation was often punished. The lights dimmed slightly as if the space itself was becoming impatient. Elias pointed to the structures around them. This place reacts to what we do, not just what we do alone, what we do together. A tall, insect-like competitor clicked its mandibles. Cooperation reduces individual advantage, it said. Elias smiled faintly. On Earth, he replied, that's how we survived. The arena reacted again. The floor shifted, forming shallow lines between the competitors. Not barriers, connections, the commentators noticed immediately. The environment is responding to group interaction, one said. That is not standard. The betting halls remained closed. No one knew how to price this. Slowly, one competitor stepped closer to Elias. Then another. They did not trust him fully, but they were curious. Elias knelt and picked up a small tool from the ground. It had no obvious function. He turned it in his hands. I don't think this is about winning, he said. I think it's about proving something. Proving what? One competitor asked. That worth doesn't have to mean dominance, Elias replied. They worked together after that, carefully at first, sharing information, testing panels in pairs, watching how the space responded. When one competitor grew tired, another took their place. When resources ran low in one area, they moved together instead of fighting over what remained. The arena struggled. Its systems adjusted again and again, trying to push them apart. Lights flickered. Gravity shifted unevenly. The temperature dropped. Instead of panicking, the group adapted. They leaned against each other for balance. They shared warmth. They laughed in different ways when things went wrong. The audience watched in stunned silence. Never before had a trial looked like this. No eliminations, a commentator whispered. No aggression. The arena has no precedent for this. Time passed in a strange way. Elias lost track of hours. He felt exhaustion deep in his bones, but also something else. A quiet sense of rightness. At last, the arena could no longer adjust without breaking its own rules. The voice returned, almost uncertain. Trial conditions met. The space dissolved around them, returning them to the central platform. All competitors still stood, alive. Unbroken, the arena paused. Then, for the first time in its long history, it said something no one expected. Multiple competitors qualify. The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. The audience erupted, not in cheers or boos, but in pure noise. Commentators spoke over each other. Systems across the galaxy flagged the result as impossible. Bookmakers recorded historic losses. Entire betting models were invalidated. Elias stood quietly among the others. He felt tired now, very tired, but also calm. One of the competitors looked at him. You changed the trial, it said. Elias shook his head. No, he replied. We did. The arena lights dimmed. The competitors were escorted away, their participation complete. Elias remained. The arena voice addressed him directly. Human competitor Elias Ward, your species displays anomalous behavioral patterns. Elias looked up. Yeah, he said, we get that a lot. Your actions reduce conflict variables, the arena continued. This contradicts arena purpose. Elias thought for a moment. Maybe the purpose needs an update, he said. Silence followed. Across the galaxy, councils met in emergency sessions. Analysts reviewed footage frame by frame. Cultural experts debated what they had seen. Humans were no longer being discussed as weak. They were being discussed as dangerous in a different way, not because they fought harder, but because they questioned the rules. The arena spoke one last time. Humanity will be observed. Elias smiled faintly. We're used to that, he said. When he finally left the arena, there was no grand ceremony. No crown, no declaration of ultimate victory, but something had changed. The unbeatable Gladiator arena still stood. It just wasn't unbeatable anymore. And across the stars, a new understanding began to spread. Humans did not win by standing alone. They won by standing together. And that scared the galaxy far more than any weapon ever could. The galaxy did not sleep after the arena. Elias Ward returned to a quiet room provided by the Galactic Council. It was clean, simple, and far too silent after the noise of the arena. He sat on the edge of the sleeping platform and stared at his hands. They still felt strange, as if the arena had not fully let him go. Across the galaxy, things were already moving. Transmissions crossed star systems at record speed. Councils argued. Analysts replayed footage again and again. The unbeatable Gladiator arena had not been destroyed, but it had been changed, and change made people nervous. Elias did not see any of that yet. The door to his room opened softly, and a council liaison entered. The being was tall and smooth-skinned, its movements careful, practiced. "You are requested," it said. "Immediately." Elias stood, feeling the weight of exhaustion settle deeper into him. "Of course," he replied. They walked through long halls of light and quiet voices. Elias noticed something new. Wherever they passed, beings stopped and watched him, not with laughter, not with mockery, with curiosity. They entered a chamber far larger than the arena platform. This was not a place for spectacle. This was a place for decisions. Representatives of dozens of species filled the room, their forms and colors blending into a living mosaic. At the center stood a simple circle. Elias was guided into it. A voice spoke, amplified and calm. "Human Elias Ward, your actions have triggered a classification review of your species." Elias nodded. "That sounds serious," he said. "It is," the voice replied. "The arena was designed to evaluate worth through competition. You introduced an alternative variable." Elias thought for a moment. "Cooperation," he suggested. "Perspective," the voice corrected. A large screen appeared, showing moments from the arena. Elias sitting still in the labyrinth. Elias speaking to others. Elias refusing to rush, refuse, or dominate. "You did not seek to win," the voice continued. "You sought to understand." Elias shrugged slightly. "That's how humans survive," he said. "We don't always get the strongest bodies or the longest lives, so we learn." A murmur spread through the chamber. Another representative spoke, its voice sharp but controlled. "If humans do not value dominance, why enter the arena at all?" Elias met the gaze of the screen. "Because you put us there," he said simply, "and because sometimes the only way to be heard is to show up." Silence followed. The council did not like simple answers. They liked data, patterns, predictable behavior. Humans were none of those things. The screen shifted again, now showing betting halls shutting down, algorithms failing, analysts erasing models. "You disrupted economic systems," the voice said. "Cultural hierarchies, long-standing traditions." Elias frowned. "We didn't mean to," he said, "but maybe those systems were fragile if one human could do that." The chamber grew quiet again. At last, the central voice spoke. "The council must decide how humanity will be classified." Elias felt a flicker of tension, not fear, responsibility. "What are the options?" he asked. "Observer species," the voice replied. "Minor participant or destabilizing influence." Elias let out a slow breath. "Is there an option for partner?" he asked. Some representatives reacted immediately. Others froze, as if the word itself was unexpected. "Explain," the voice said. Elias looked around the chamber, at beings older than his entire species. At minds shaped by stars, oceans, machines, and time. "We don't want to replace your systems," he said. "We don't want to control them, we want to help improve them. We ask questions, we test assumptions, not because we think we're better." He paused. "But because we know we're not." That answer did something no simulation had predicted. It resonated, not with logic, with memory. Many species in the chamber remembered what it was like to be young, to be uncertain, to struggle before they grew powerful. The arena had taught them to forget that. The council recessed. Elias was escorted back to his room, this time with less formality and more respect. Days passed. Elias rested. He slept. He spoke with the other competitors from round 2. They shared stories, laughter, confusion. Bonds formed where none were expected. Across the galaxy, smaller arenas paused operations. Some shut down entirely. Others began rewriting rules. Humans became a subject of study, not for their strength, for their thinking. At last, the council called Elias back. This time the chamber felt different, less tense, more open. The central voice spoke. "The council has reached a decision." Elias stood still. "Humanity will be classified as a cooperative catalyst species." He blinked. "I'm not sure what that means," he admitted. "It means," the voice said, "that wherever humans participate, systems change, sometimes unpredictably, often irreversibly." Elias smiled faintly. "That sounds about right," the voice continued. "Humanity will be invited to observe, advise, and participate in council matters. Not as rulers, not as subjects, as challengers of assumption." A ripple of reaction moved through the chamber. Elias felt something tighten in his chest, pride maybe, or relief. "I'll tell Earth," he said. "There is more," the voice added. The screen shifted again, showing the unbeatable Gladiator arena. Its lights dimmed, its systems paused. "The arena will be reclassified." Elias raised an eyebrow. "As what?" he asked. "A forum," the voice replied. "A place of challenge without elimination. A place to test ideas, not just bodies." Elias let out a quiet laugh. "Good," he said. "It was overdue." When Elias finally left the chamber, the galaxy felt different, not safer, not calmer, but more honest. He stood at a viewing window looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, small, fragile, loud, kind. He thought about everything humans had survived: storms, hunger, mistakes, each other. They had never been unbeatable, they had just been adaptable. A message arrived from the arena system itself. Short, direct. "Observation ongoing." Elias typed a reply. "Same here." Far away, bookies rewrote their models, councils rewrote laws, species rewrote stories they told their children, not about the strongest, but about the human who walked into the unbeatable arena and showed the galaxy that winning did not always mean standing alone. And that sometimes the most powerful thing a species could do. The first human delegation arrived 6 cycles later. Elias Ward stood at the edge of the arrival hall and watched the doors open. He was no longer wearing the simple gray arena suit. Now he wore standard council attire adjusted for human comfort. It still felt strange, too official, too heavy with meaning. The doors slid apart and 6 humans stepped inside. They did not march. They did not pose. They looked around with open curiosity, whispering to each other, pointing quietly at the architecture, the light, the impossible mix of species moving through the hall. Elias felt a slow smile form on his face. That, more than anything, confirmed the council's decision. The lead delegate, a woman with silver-streaked hair and sharp, kind eyes, spotted Elias and waved. She crossed the distance quickly and stopped in front of him. "So," she said, looking around, "you really did it." Elias shrugged. "We all did," he replied. "I just happened to be there first." Across the galaxy, reactions to humanity's new status were still unfolding. Some species welcomed it. They invited humans into research forums, cultural exchanges, and long-stalled negotiations. Humans asked questions others had stopped asking long ago. Why is this done this way? Who benefits? What happens if we try something different? Sometimes the answers were uncomfortable. Sometimes they were freeing. Other species were less pleased. The betting guilds, once powerful beyond measure, had lost more than wealth. They had lost certainty. Their systems could not predict humans. Worse, humans encouraged others to behave unpredictably as well. The old hierarchies began to wobble. The unbeatable Gladiator arena reopened quietly without spectacle. No massive broadcast, no dramatic odds. The first event under its new classification was not called a trial, it was called a challenge. Elias attended, standing not as a competitor but as an observer. The arena floor was different now: softer light, open spaces, tools designed for collaboration rather than dominance. Competitors entered in groups, mixed species chosen at random. Some resisted. Some tried to return to old habits, but the arena no longer rewarded that. It responded to balance, communication, and shared problem-solving. Those who refused to adapt did not fail violently. They simply reached dead ends, doors that would not open. Systems that would not respond. Frustration replaced fear, and then slowly learning replaced frustration. Elias watched a group struggle with a complex environmental puzzle. They argued at first. Each insisted on their own approach. Progress stalled. A small human technician, not even part of the competition, leaned over the railing beside Elias. "They're stuck," she said. "Yes," Elias replied, "but not for long." As if on cue, one competitor stopped arguing and asked a simple question. "What if none of us is right alone?" The arena shifted. A new path opened. Across the galaxy, stories began to change. Children of warrior species were no longer told only about conquest. They were told about the human who sat still in a labyrinth and learned. About the group that refused to turn on each other and won by not winning at all. Humans became invited guests at places that had never allowed outsiders. They were not always liked. Often they were challenged. But they were listened to because humans had done something rare. They had proven influence without force. Elias felt the weight of it more each day. One cycle, he was summoned not by the council but by the arena itself. The request was brief. "Consultation required." He stood alone on the arena floor once more. The lights dimmed gently around him, not threatening this time, curious. "You have changed me," the arena voice said. Elias tilted his head. "We didn't mean to break you," he said. "You did not," the arena replied. "You expanded my function." Elias smiled. "That's what humans do to things we care about." The arena paused. "I am analyzing long-term outcomes," it said. "Conflict rates are decreasing in systems that adopt human-adjacent models." "Good," Elias said. "Some species express concern," the arena continued. "They fear loss of identity." Elias nodded slowly. "That fear makes sense," he said. "Change always feels like loss before it feels like growth." Another pause. "Why did your species evolve this way?" the arena asked. Elias thought carefully. "Because we had to," he said. "Our planet was harsh, our bodies weren't enough, so we learned to depend on each other, to argue, to forgive, to rebuild after failure." The arena processed that. "Your species fails often," it observed. Elias laughed softly. "Constantly," he agreed. "But we don't stop." The arena dimmed further, something like contemplation. "Observation will continue," it said, with emphasis. Elias left the arena feeling lighter than he had in years. Back on Earth, the news was received with mixed emotions. Pride, fear, excitement, doubt. Humanity had never been unified for long. That had not changed, but something had shifted. Humans were no longer asking if they belonged in the galaxy. They were asking how to contribute responsibly. Years passed. Elias grew older, his hair grayed, his steps slowed. But his presence remained steady. He watched as humans helped rewrite trade systems to reduce exploitation, as they worked with ancient species to preserve fading cultures, as they challenged young empires before they hardened into cruelty. Not perfectly, never perfectly, but sincerely. One day, Elias returned to the arena for the last time. He stood at the center and looked up at the seats, now often empty. The galaxy no longer needed constant proof of dominance. It needed understanding. A message appeared on the central display. "Your observation period nears completion." Elias nodded. "I figured," he said. "Humans don't stay symbols forever." "Your impact remains," the arena replied. Elias smiled gently. "Good," he said. "Then you won't need me." As he turned to leave, the arena spoke once more. "Elias Ward," he paused. "Thank you." He did not answer. He did not need to. He stepped out into the open galaxy where humans and aliens walked side by side, still arguing, still learning, still trying. The unbeatable arena stood behind him, not defeated. Just no longer the point. And somewhere far from council halls and ancient machines, a human child looked up at the stars and wondered not how to conquer them, but how to understand them. And that, more than any victory, changed everything.